The loudest lies are the ones we silently believe. Let that one settle in your chest for a second, my friends. And because we've been fed a lot of noise, told that if you want a man to want you, you need to play a game, pose like a filter, walk like a mystery, talk like a script. They say men fall for looks, for legs, for strategy, for that perfect version of you. But I'll tell you something different, something truer, something you already feel in your bones. Real men, the ones who've lived a little, lost a little, maybe got their hearts cracked open and stitched back, those men, they don't fall for a performance, they fall for presence. Hey, before we go deeper, hit that like button and subscribe. We're about to break down the psychology of what really creates desire. And trust me, it's not what they taught you. Let's get this message to more women who are ready to stop pretending and start connecting. Now stay with me. Ladies, picture this. Imagine a wildfire. It doesn't start with noise, it starts with a single spark in dry silence. That's what real presence is like. Quiet, undeniable. It doesn't beg for attention, it commands it. You walk in the room not like you're waiting to be chosen, but like you've already chosen yourself. That energy, that peaceful confidence, that's the kind of flame a man can't put out. And this isn't about tricks. Ain't no magic words. This isn't some make him chase you tactic. Nah, this is soul level stuff. The kind that can't be faked because it's not about what you do. It's about who you are when you stop performing and start living fully. And look, I'm not talking about every man. I'm talking about men who are ready, emotionally awake, men who've gotten tired of games, who want something real but don't always know how to ask for it. These men, they don't fall for surface. They fall for substance. Your body might catch his eye, but your soul, that's what keeps him coming back again and again. Carl Jung once said, "The female soul holds the image of the man and the male soul holds the image of the woman." What does that mean? It means we don't just fall for the other person. We fall for the part of ourselves they reflect. That mirror, that match, that moment when someone walks in and somehow it feels like they were always supposed to be there. When a man feels like he doesn't need to prove himself, doesn't need to defend, doesn't need to perform to be accepted, that's when he relaxes. That's when the wall comes down. And that, my friends, is where desire begins. Not in lust, in ease. Here's where it gets fun and real. You know how sometimes you give people little nicknames that describe them better than their real name ever could? Well, we're about to do the same thing with men. But not to flatter, to activate. These aren't lines, these are reflections. I'm going to show you 7 archetypes, what I call mental nicknames, that speak directly to a man's inner identity, the part of him that rarely gets seen, the part that craves to be recognized, not used. And let me tell you something before we roll forward. You don't have to become someone else to be enough. You don't need to shrink or chase or morph. The woman you already are, with the right words, the right energy, the right stillness, she's already more than enough. And so stay with me, because once you learn how to speak to a man's soul, you'll never have to compete for attention again. You'll be the one he feels long after the room is empty. And let's get into it. Number 1, I feel safe when I'm with you. What? Sometimes the strongest man in the room is the one who finally feels like he can put his armor down. Let's talk about safety, my friends. Not the kind that locks doors or double checks alarms. I'm talking about the kind that makes your whole nervous system breathe. The kind that says, here, in this space, I don't have to pretend. Picture a storm, lightning, wind, chaos. But then you step inside a cabin and it's warm, still. No words, no music, just the fire and the silence. That's what a real man becomes when he feels needed not for what he can fix, but for what he makes you feel. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't that too vulnerable? Won't I sound weak? Won't that make me look like I need him? But here's the truth. The phrase, I feel safe when I'm with you, isn't weakness. It's reverence. It's telling him you are more than what you do. You are who I rest in. You see, men live in a world that constantly demands them to be strong, but rarely tells them why that strength matters. This phrase, it doesn't flatter his ego. It speaks to his identity. It tells him, you don't have to fight here. You don't have to fix here. You're the calm, not the chaos. And when a woman he respects looks him in the eye and says those words, it's not a compliment, it's a homecoming. Because for a man who always has to be the rock, being told he is the shelter, that lands different. And maybe, just maybe, for the first time, he exhales. Denzel once said, ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. But I'll tell you this, ease in love, that's not a threat, that's the test. Can you be so steady that someone else feels safe enough to come undone? So the next time you're with him in a quiet car ride under city lights, in the quiet after laughter, try saying it gently, sincerely. I feel safe when I'm with you. Say it and watch something shift, not in his head, but in his spirit. And stay with me, because the next phrase, it doesn't just touch his heart, it unlocks his mind. Number 2, I love the way you think. A man's mind is a fortress. Most people knock on the walls, very few are trusted to walk inside. Let's get something straight, my friends. Every man, no matter how quiet or bold, walks around carrying a world inside his head. Plans, fears, ideas he's never spoken out loud, dreams he doesn't know how to chase. The problem? Most of the world only sees the outside, the job title, the jokes, the moves, but the man lives in his mind. Now imagine this, he's been talking about something, maybe a vision, a belief, a theory he thought no one would take seriously. And you don't just nod, you stop, you lean in, and you say it. I love the way you think. It's a phrase so simple, but it hits like thunder. Why? Because you didn't praise his looks. You didn't comment on his style or his status. You touched something deeper, his mind, his essence, the place he rarely feels admired. And yeah, maybe you're wondering, will that make me sound too serious? What if he doesn't believe me? No, what if I'm too much? Let me tell you, the right man will breathe deeper when he hears it. Because this isn't about ego, it's about respect. And respect, that's rare. You're not saying he's always right. You're saying, I see how your mind moves and it matters to me. Carl Jung once said, thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. But you're not judging, you're not performing. You're honoring the way he sees the world, and that's how a man begins to feel not just wanted, but understood. Because chemistry fades, but intellectual intimacy, that's legacy stuff, that's the glue. So next time he's sharing something serious, silly, spontaneous, pause, lock in, and say it with truth. I love the way you think. Say it and you'll see something shift, not just in his eyes, but in the way he starts bringing more of himself to you. And stay with me, because the next phrase, it reaches the part of him that doesn't speak much, but holds everything steady. Number 3, you're my calm when things feel out of control. The strongest waves are the ones you don't hear coming. Let's talk about stillness, not silence, not absence. I mean that grounded, unshakable presence that doesn't need to shout to be known. You've seen it before, the kind of man who doesn't rush to speak, who doesn't get thrown by every little thing. He doesn't just show up, he holds space. And in a world spinning out of control, that kind of presence, it's magnetic. Imagine this, the whole day's been chaos, work drama, phone buzzing, life moving too fast. And then he walks in, no big performance, no grand gesture, just stillness, just him, like a mountain in a windstorm. You lean into him, not because you're weak, but because his presence feels like peace. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Won't that sound too needy? Am I giving him too much power by saying that? What if he doesn't know how to respond? But hear me, saying you're my calm when things feel out of control doesn't mean you're falling apart. It means you found someone who helps you stay together. And that's power, not dependence. This phrase speaks to the strength he probably doesn't know he's showing, because most men have been taught their value is in what they do, not in the energy they carry. And when you reflect back to him that his groundedness isn't just noticed, it's felt, he'll never forget that. Because let me tell you something, fireworks impress, but it's the quiet peace that heals. That's the kind of love that stays. And when you say that phrase, say it slow. Say it in a moment that matters, a car ride, a quiet evening, a storm in your day. Look him in the eye and speak the truth. You're my calm when things feel out of control. He'll never hear those words and forget the woman who made him feel like peace was his power. And stay with me, because next up, we're unlocking the part of him that's built for purpose and starved for recognition. Number 4, I admire the way you move toward what matters. The world claps for the finish line, but few see the man running in silence before dawn. Let's talk about focus, about purpose, about that man who doesn't just chase success. He moves with meaning. He's not flashy. He doesn't always talk about his plans. But if you watch him close, you'll see a man building something day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment. Now picture this. He's up early again, eyes tired but determined. He's working. Maybe it's not glamorous, maybe it doesn't get posted, but it matters to him. And one day, instead of just saying, "Good job," you stop. You look him in the eye and you say, "I admire the way you move toward what matters." And that one phrase, it lands deep because it tells him, I see the why behind what you do, not just the result you're chasing. You see, so many men carry the weight of expectation. Be successful, be stable, provide, win. But so few people stop to acknowledge the integrity behind the effort. And when you notice his consistency, his discipline, his long-haul vision, it does more than compliment him. It validates who he's becoming. You might ask, will he really hear it? Will it make a difference? Isn't admiration something you give to celebrities, not partners? But here's the truth. Most men aren't starving for attention. They're starving for recognition. For someone to say, I see what you're doing and I respect you for it. Denzel once said, success, I don't know what that word means. I'm more interested in the journey. And that's what you're doing when you say this phrase. You're honoring his journey, not just waiting for his results. So the next time you catch him in the grind, making choices that reflect character, not comfort, say it. Let him know you see the man behind the mission. I admire the way you move toward what matters. Say it and watch how his posture changes, not for show, but because something inside him stood taller. Stay with me, because next, we're stepping into the fire, the part of him that refuses to be tamed. Some men aren't built to walk in straight lines. They were born for wide skies and crooked paths. Let me tell you something, my friends. Not every man fits inside neat categories. Some don't play by the rules. They don't wear easy titles. They don't follow predictable roads. And that can scare people, because when something can't be defined, we try to control it, or worse, we walk away from it. But there's a different kind of woman, the rare kind. She doesn't try to tame the wild. She doesn't shrink from the fire. She sees the chaos and says, there's brilliance in this. She looks that man in the eye and says, I love that you're not easy to label. You see, the wild flame, he burns with complexity. He might be intense, passionate, unpredictable. He might speak in metaphors, dream out loud, start things without knowing exactly how they'll end. And because of that, he's been misunderstood, misread, boxed in, told to tone it down. But when you say those words, not easy to label, you're not just accepting him, you're freeing him, you're telling him you don't have to dim your light to be loved here. And yeah, I know some of you might ask, isn't that risky? What if he's too much? What if I lose myself in the fire? But here's the truth. You don't have to lose yourself to meet someone fully. You just have to stop trying to contain what was never meant to be small. Freedom, when honored, not feared, builds the kind of bond that burns forever, not fast. Denzel once said, you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud too. Well, loving a wild flame means honoring both his fire and his flaws. And when he realizes you're not trying to change him, but see him, he doesn't run, he stays. So next time he's being loud, creative, messy, raw, unapologetically him, say it with warmth, with a smile. I love that you're not easy to label. Say it and give him permission to stop performing and just be free. And stay with me, because next we speak to the man who doesn't quit, the one who keeps showing up even when no one's clapping. Number 6, you don't quit when it gets tough, and that's rare. Strength isn't proven in comfort, it's revealed in pressure. Let's be real, my friends. Anybody can show up when it's easy, when things are fun, when it's all laughs and filters and good vibes. But when the road gets rough, when patience is tested and real life shows up with all its mess and unpredictability, that's when most people hit the exit. But not him. And the loyal warrior doesn't always talk about loyalty. He lives it, he stays, he shows up even when he's tired. He works it out instead of walking away. He chooses commitment not because it's convenient, but because he gave his word. And when you look at that kind of man, not with expectation, but with reverence, and say, you don't quit when it gets tough, and that's rare. You're not just appreciating him, you're validating a piece of his identity he rarely hears praised. And maybe you wonder, is that enough to keep him? Will it sound like I'm just impressed by bare minimum effort? Doesn't every man stay when he loves you? No, not every man does. Staying isn't passive, it's brave. In a world that glamorizes jumping ship, ghosting, swiping past commitment like it's a glitch, staying is revolutionary. And when you acknowledge that, when you make space for his loyalty to be seen and not just assumed, it touches something sacred. Denzel once said, without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. So if you got a man who's still showing up even when it's not convenient, don't let that go unnoticed. Tell him, reflect it back. You don't quit when it gets tough, and that's rare. Say it when you're going through something. Say it when he could have backed away but leaned in instead. Say it when things are quiet but solid. And watch what happens when a man feels respected for not just who he is, but how he stays. Stay with me, because next we're stepping into the softest part of him, the part that hides behind silence, but just wants to feel safe enough to be seen. Number 7, you don't have to figure it all out, I'm with you. Even warriors need somewhere to take off the armor. Let's talk about pressure, my friends. Silent pressure, the kind men carry without ever saying a word. He might smile through it, joke through it, work through it, but behind those eyes is a mind running marathons, trying to make sense of everything: finances, purpose, expectations, legacy, and on top of all that, the weight of not looking weak. This world tells men they always have to know the next move, be the rock, be the plan, be the strength. But here's the truth, no one says out loud. Sometimes even the strongest man doesn't have the answers. Now imagine you're with him. It's been a long day. He's quiet. He's in his head. Maybe he's carrying something he can't even name. And instead of asking him to fix it or explain it, you reach for his hand, look him in the eye, and say, you don't have to figure it all out. I'm with you. That phrase, that's not weakness, that's medicine. And it tells him, you don't have to perform for me. I don't need you to be a superhero. I just need you to be human and still here. And I get it, you might worry. Oh, what if he thinks I'm settling? So, what if it makes him lazy? What if I'm enabling him? But listen closely, you're not offering a free pass, you're offering a safe pause. You're not taking away his fire, you're just giving him a place to breathe. Because real love doesn't always show up with answers. Sometimes it just shows up and stays. Denzel once said, if you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud too. This is the mud. This is the moment where love isn't shiny, but it's real. So the next time he's quiet, not okay, unsure of himself, don't rush him out of it. Don't fix it. Just show up. Say it softly. Say it slow. You don't have to figure it all out. I'm with you. Say it, and give him something this world almost never does. Permission to just be. And stay with me, because what comes next? It's not about who he is now, it's about the man he's becoming. Number 8, I believe in the man you're becoming. A man doesn't grow into his greatness alone, he grows into the reflection of who believes in him. There comes a moment in every man's life where the road ahead feels bigger than the one behind him, where the weight of who he wants to be starts to collide with the noise of who he's been. Maybe he's not there yet. Maybe he's made mistakes. Maybe he still doubts himself more than he wants to admit. But even then, he's trying, he's reaching, he's becoming. And that's where you come in. You see, there's a kind of love that doesn't just see the man standing in front of you. It sees the man on his way. And when you speak to that version of him, not out of fantasy, but faith, something rises in him. Not for validation, not for ego, but because you called out what's already in his bones. And when you look at him and say, I believe in the man you're becoming, it's not just encouragement, it's activation. Because what you're really saying is, I see your growth even when you stumble. I see your effort even when you fall short. I see the king even when life's got you crawling. And I know you might think, oh, what if he never becomes that man? And what if I'm just hoping too hard? What if I'm wrong? But hear this, your belief isn't a contract, it's a gift, one he'll never forget. Because men don't always become what people expect. They become what someone believed was possible for them. Denzel once said, true desire in the heart, that itch you have to be great. It's God's proof to you, sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours. Well, guess what? When you speak belief into a man who's still becoming, you're not just helping him rise, you're reminding him it's already his. So say it in his quiet moments, in the midst of setbacks. Say it when he needs it, and even more when he thinks he doesn't. I believe in the man you're becoming. And then watch him start living up to that vision, not for applause, but because someone finally saw the king before the crown showed up. Stay with me, because what we just walked through, these aren't just phrases. They're portals to deeper love. Let's wrap this up. If these words stirred something in you, and don't keep it to yourself, these phrases aren't tricks, they're truth. When spoken with presence, they don't just make a man feel seen, they help you stand in your power. So if you're ready for connection that's real, deep, and lasting, start with how you speak. Like this video, subscribe for more soul-level conversations, and share it with someone who's done playing games and ready to love with purpose. Remember, the love you're looking for isn't found by chasing, it's revealed by being. Stay grounded, stay glowing, and I'll see you in the next one.